Hello, good morning, everyone. Or good
Hey, good
afternoon,
morning.
depending on where you're calling from. But if you're on the West Coast, good morning. Awesome. All right. Thanks so much for being here, everybody. Just a heads up, we are recording today's session, so we'll be able to reference this afterwards. Myra, would you mind sharing your screen, please? Great.
Want to see it?
All right. Well, thanks so much, everybody, for taking time to be here on a Friday morning/afternoon. And also, congratulations on the beginning of your summer 2023 internship. Huge round of applause to everybody for such a huge accomplishment already. So if you are unsure if you're in the right place, this is our STEM Core Intern Orientation. It might be called something different on your campus, whether it's STEM Core, Step to NLS, OMG, Bridge to Engineering, lots of different names, but we're all under the umbrella term STEM Core. So don't be concerned if you don't recognize the name. All right, next slide, please. All right, so here's a brief agenda of what we are going to be going over in our quick 60 minutes together. We're going to cover a little bit about who Growth Sector is, a little bit about our STEM core partners that a lot of you will be working with throughout the summer. We're going to go over some details in regards to your offer letter that everybody should received at this point, talk a little bit about how each of you are going to be hired this summer, and then spend some time talking over payroll, how the fun part as to how everybody's going to get paid this summer and get their money. And then lastly, we'll talk a little bit about how we'll be checking in with you throughout the summer with you and your mentors. And lastly, testimonials that you will all be submitting. All right, but first things first, you did it. Congratulations. I know it was a long road to get here in terms of submitting your applications, then doing a first round interview with our growth sector team, interviewing with employer partners and research partners, then getting your offer letters. I know for some of you, it took a little bit longer than others. So thanks for hanging in there, but the beginning of your professional career begins now. This is a huge, huge step in the trajectory of your careers, and not just your academic career, but your professional career as well. So congratulations. All right, so a little bit of background, just so you're aware, like what this means and who Growth Sector is. So Growth Sector is a national nonprofit. We are based out of San Francisco, super small team. But we are essentially the backbone organization for the STEM Core program. So we work really closely with your campus counselors and support specialists and your STEM Core team on campus that run your program. So if you're working with Dr. Boko or Becca at Mission College, or if you're at Pasadena City College working with Ted, we work closely with that team who's on your individual campus just to make sure that we are implementing the program and supporting all of you across the country. But our entire focus is getting you to get through your academic pathway, but specifically to help students like yourselves move into fields within engineering and STEM as a whole, and then connecting you to high wage, high growth careers and jobs. So whether that's internships and research, and then eventually full-time employment. So we're already on the way because you're all here and you made it this far. So congratulations again. All right, so quick introduction since I've been talking. A few of you, I think at this point, everybody should know who I am, but for those of you who are unaware, my name is Cheryl Martinez. I am the STEM program manager with Growth Sector. I've been working specifically with this program for about 10 years and super passionate about the work that we're doing with students. I've had the opportunity to be able to connect with students all over the country, to place students into some really great positions and see them succeed, graduate, and then stay employed with a lot of these employers that you all are starting with. So I'm super excited to introduce another cohort this summer. And I will let my colleague Myra introduce herself.
Good morning, everyone. I do recognize a lot of these names. I'm sure you've seen me either in your intern interviews or through a resume review session. Sorry you're not getting away from me again. This summer, you'll definitely be hearing from me as well, and Cheryl as well. So if you have any questions, just know I am here and around to help.
Yeah. So thanks so much, Myra. So yeah, as Myra alluded to, will be your primary contacts in terms of specifically for like payroll and onboarding throughout the summer. When it comes to like the actual supervision and the nuts and bolts for your actual internship or research that you're doing this summer, that will be your assigned mentor. So just understand that there's a clear division between the two, although we will be in contact with your site and your mentors just because we're all friends here, right?
Exactly.
All right, and just for some context for all of you, here's a look at some of the STEM core campuses that we're working with. So just realize that you're in good company. I know sometimes it can feel small and like we can get bogged down in the detail of our campuses, but understanding that you are a part of a national program. So even though you might be participating in our program at Evergreen Valley College, know that you have friends and peers who are going through the same struggles and joys of our program across the country, in Miami, in DC, in Colorado, New Mexico, but the program has grown significantly over the last few years, and we're just so happy to have all of you here. But just realizing that really this is the beginning of your professional network as well. So you have colleagues, not just in state, but around the country as well. So we always encourage you to connect on LinkedIn and other ways, especially other people that you'll be interning with as well this summer. And then on to some of the exciting stuff. Here's a look at some of the employer partners that we are working with this summer that all of you will have the chance to be interning with, whether this is your site this summer, whether you were able to hear a little bit from some of these sites during our virtual development series that we ran all throughout the fall and spring of this past year. Or if there's an employer that you see on this list that you're super interested in, perhaps this is somebody that we can target for you next summer. So just noting that our list of employer partners is constantly growing, from our larger national labs to local engineering firms to more regional based, and then even being able to do our complete university research with some of our four-year partners as well. All right, so on to some of the details that we want to make sure to cover with all of you. So at this point, everybody should have received an internship offer letter directly from Growth Sector that looks similar to this. So we want to make sure that you are paying close attention to your offer letter, because every offer letter looks a little bit different for each intern, depending on who you are, your campus, or the site that you are interning with. So you are going to be using these details, and the reason why we're making sure to really point this out is that you're going to be using this offer letter to complete your onboarding paperwork that each of you are going to be getting after today's orientation. So we want to make sure that we spend some time going over this. So some things to note is that most of our placements are about 10 weeks, some might be 8 weeks. The dates in here for the actual dates that you're interning, how many hours you're expected to work a week, your actual compensation, and then information on your mentor and your project, your specific project that you're going to be working on this summer. So if this looks familiar, if you haven't seen this before, please go back into your inbox and take a look at this. But everybody at this point has received one and has likely signed off on this already and sent it back to us. And if you haven't signed off on it, Myra and or I will be tapping you, or we already have, saying, hey, make sure you turn this in. And we'll be leaving some time at the end for Q&A as well, okay? All right, so one big thing that we want to point out is the difference between a contractor versus an employee. So all of you on this call will be hired through Growth Sector as independent contractors this summer in order to be paid. So one of the big differences between an employee versus a contractor. So if you are an employee, which most of you probably already have been in the past, if you're an employee, let's say you're working at Target, at the end of the tax year, you get a W-2 through your employer. And that's what you use to file taxes. There's withholdings involved. So like, let's say you were supposed to get paid $1,000. They probably withheld like state and federal taxes, and maybe you got like $750 at the end of it, right? Versus a contractor, we will be hiring you on as a contractor, which means instead of a W-2, you'll be receiving a 1099 from growth sector in the new year. So around January, you'll be receiving a 1099. A 1099 you'll be using to file your taxes. The only difference is as an independent contractor, you're considered to be self-employed, which means that there are no withholdings. So again, if you were going to get $1,000, if that's what you were due, you will be paid $1,000. That doesn't mean like, yay, free money. It means that when you file your taxes, you are going to have to owe that money when you file your taxes. So growth sector can't give you tax advice. We did, in the invitation for this orientation, we did provide some more details in terms of or the explanation of an independent contractor. We do suggest that you do some more research on your own. You could connect with your tax professional. One pro tip that I always tell our students is we don't want you to be surprised. So I would take a look at like your past like W-2s if you've worked before and see like what's been withheld, and then make it a point to withhold something similar when you get paid through growth sector this summer. So whether it's taking out a certain X amount of dollars each time you get paid, just putting that away so that you're not suddenly surprised when you're filing your taxes in the new year. But to each their own, you do what you do you. But that's just advice that I would give. All right, so Myra, I will let Myra go into details about this. But again, you guys haven't received these forms yet. So after today's session, you will be getting this paperwork via DocuSign.
Yes. So actually starting with that, I highly encourage you all to make sure that from here on out, you just, if you aren't already in the habit of doing so, check your emails, in essence, kind of every day. Especially once, you're working, and I mean, now that you're in college as well, just make it a habit, because especially when starting an internship or a job, there can be a lot of email communication going back and forth with the employer or with us or whoever it may be. And some things may be time sensitive. So please make sure to keep an eye on your email. As Cheryl mentioned, we will be sending you all a DocuSign, a couple documents through DocuSign. You're going to go through them. And so one of them is the W-9 tax form. We need this. It is, again, very crucial. You're going to get a deadline as to when you need to submit these forms. Honestly, it takes just a couple minutes. It's not hard at all. But you need to make sure that you fill out every portion, because if it is not completely filled out, I'm going to have to re-email it back to you. And it's just going to be a back and forth. And just keep in mind that this does delay the process of getting your documents in and getting you paid and all that good stuff. So please make sure that you are on top of filling and submitting these documents out. With the W-9 tax form, I know it looks a little intimidating, but it's actually pretty simple. And again, I'm not going to be giving any sort of tax advice or anything like that, but just in general, what we have seen. What you do need to fill out is your name, obviously. Most students, it's just their first name. Cheryl, I think you can attest to this. We don't really have many students who have their own business at this point. So normally number 2 is kind of left open.
Sorry, just correction, Myra, you said first name. So number 1, first and last name, please.
First and last name, yes.
Yeah.
First and last name. Like I said, number 2, generally from what we've seen, it's left open. Number 3, you need to make sure to fill out. This is where you need to check the appropriate box for federal tax classification. Okay. Again, in general, what we have seen is If you're a student, you don't have a business or anything like that, then normally you would just check this box, the first one, individual. Okay, you are an individual receiving this W-9. Again, if you fall under a corporation or a partnership or anything like that, then that's a little different. And again, I don't want to say what you would need to do next. Refer maybe to your tax person.
But you would know if you have
would
a
know.
business. So you would know if you have a C Corp or an S Corp. If you're
Yes.
unsure or if you've never heard of that before, you're probably an individual.
Exactly. Thank you for clarifying that. After that, you need to make sure you include your address, and this would be your home address, wherever you receive your mail. I've had a couple students I've seen in the past where they put the address for their internship site. No. Like, you need to make sure that you put your home address where you receive mail, where you normally reside. If you're going to be a student who's going to be moving for the summer, just, for a couple months, but then you're going to be returning back home, put your home address, okay? And again, this includes, the city, state, all that good stuff.
And this is the address that, like, your permanent address. So this is where we will be sending your 1099 in the new year.
Exactly. So again, put your permanent place of residence. Again, normally number 7 is left open. These boxes are left open normally. The next important part is part 1, which is your taxpayer identification number. So you may be of either 1 or 2. You'll put your social security number, or if you don't have the social security number and you go by the employer identification number, then that's fine too. But again, please make sure that you fill out this area. And then last but not least, you need to make sure you sign and date. Again, I made it in DocuSign to where these fields are mandatory, but in case for whatever reason it doesn't pop up, just make sure you fill out these specific areas. We're going to be emailing you a link to a Google Drive where this form. I literally took a screenshot of this slide and I put it in the Google Drive for you. So if you get confused or need a refresher, go to that Google Drive and you'll be able to click on this and it'll kind of be like a little reminder. Okay, I need to make sure to fill out these areas. Okay. Now, the next form that you're going to be getting is your intern consultant agreement. Okay. It's going to look like a long document, I'm not going to lie, but don't let it be intimidating. It's very easy. And again, through DocuSign, I made sure to put the fields where you need to fill out. But basically, you need to make sure you fill out every area that's highlighted on the document. It might not be highlighted, but it is highlighted with the DocuSign box. Make sure to pay, though, close attention to once you get to this page specifically, it'll say attachment A, services to be provided. And basically in this area, you are again, you'll see the little boxes that'll prompt you to write what you're supposed to write. But this one in particular, I always see students mess up on. There's going to be an area that says project description. You need to make sure that when you are filling out this form, have open on a separate window your offer letter that you received from Cheryl. From your offer letter, if you remember, let me go back. This is your offer letter, right? See where it says project description? This is the project description. This is what you're going to be copying and pasting onto here in this intern consultant agreement, okay? Again, pretty easy. You literally are just going to copy and paste it into the document, okay? Again, if your agreement is not filled out correctly or completely, I will have to send it back to you to redo. And unfortunately, with the DocuSign forms that we're sending you, there isn't like an edit button, anything like that, because once you sign it and date it, like, it's locked, right? And so if you forget something or you do something incorrectly, you're going to basically have to restart it over. So go through it carefully, making sure you read exactly what it's asking you to include in there, okay? And again, so taking your time to fill it out, making sure you do it right, it will just help the process along.
Myra, one thing to note, I see a lot of students get confused as well, where it says when it's referring to contractors. So during the term of the agreement, the contractor shall be responsible for. You are the contractor. You, yes. Right? That's you. So you'll see, like, on this document is probably about 7 pages. DocuSign will prompt you where to put or what to fill in. But like you'll put like contractor, i.e. like I'm looking at Miguel Gomez, like put in like Miguel Gomez, right? And then just like keep moving on from there. Also, like you'll see here in attachment A, student intern services at, that is your internship site. So are you at Cal State LA SMART program? Are you at the National Renewable Energy Lab? Are you at Berkeley National Lab? Like that's what you need to put in there.
And don't worry, if you're like me, you have short-term memory. Fellow Dory fans here. Don't worry, like I said, in that document, I specifically put in the boxes, like for here, the box will say internship site name. So you'll know that's where you need to put, oh, National Renewable Energy Lab or Sandia Labs or wherever you're at. Where it says contractor, I put on there that you need to put your name. So again, just making sure to read what it says, but it'll prompt you as to what to do, but just make sure you pay attention to that. Okay, so, oh, and again, I gave an example here of where you would find the project description, again, on your offer letter. So have it open as you're filling out that contractor agreement. Oh, and actually one thing to note as well, in that contractor agreement, it will also, you'll get to a page where it'll ask you what your rate per hour is. All that information is going to be right here. I know right off the bat on that contractor agreement, one of the first few questions it asks you is what date range. This is where your date range is for your internship. So check again, your offer letter, you want to have it open because it has a lot of the details in there. Okay.
And I apologize if some of this sounds redundant, but this is our one chance to talk to all of you live. Maya and I have done this for many summers, and we have over 100 interns that we are going to be processing this for. So save us some time, y'all. Just like pay attention one time and just do this correctly, please.
Yes, and especially once we get to the next couple slides in regards to the invoice. Again, we don't want to be annoying, but again, we see it over and over and over, little mistakes that end up putting a pause or it delays paying an intern. So just keep that in mind. Again, it's the little details that matter.
Okay, so our intern pay schedule. So everybody needs to save this document. You're going to get this many times from us. It's going to be emailed to you after this. It's going to be on the Google Drive. Every time I email you reminding you that payroll is coming up, I'm going to attach this because you need to keep these dates in mind. Okay. And you should, because this is how you're going to get paid. Otherwise, like no free work over here, right? Everybody wants to make sure that they get paid what they're due. So on the left-hand column is your participation / work period. So those are the days that you're working. I'm gonna jump down to June 12th, just because that's what's relevant right now, or that's the date that a lot of you are starting. So your work period begins Monday, June 12th, and you're being paid bi-weekly. So your work period goes for 2 weeks. So June 12th through June 23rd. So a Monday through the following Friday. So 2 weeks. So you're going to be logging, and we're going to show you where you're going to be logging what you're doing, but your work period is for 2 weeks. Then where it says invoice due date, June 22nd. So it's on the whole right-hand side, but for this, we're just for the sake of example, we're looking at June 12th through June 23rd you worked. Your due date for your invoice is June 22nd. Question, hey Cheryl, how is my invoice due on June 22nd, but I haven't worked that day yet? I haven't worked June 23rd yet, but I have to submit this on June 22nd. Excellent question. So you'll notice that the invoice due dates are all on Thursdays. So you are going to be projecting your hours for the next day. All of you will be working with your mentors to have like set hours or an idea of like your set hours. So you'll get a trend, or you'll have like a routine. So after like you've worked for the 2 weeks from June 12th through June 22nd, you're going to have an idea of how many hours you're going to work on that next day, June 23rd. So we're asking you to project those hours. So going back to your offer letter that we sent, if you're working 40 hours a week, when you submit for this pay period, because it's 2 weeks in this pay period, you would be submitting for no more than 80 hours because you worked 2 weeks. Is that clear? Also note, unfortunately, everybody is independent contractors, not employees, which means that as an independent contractor, you don't get benefits. So there's no health benefits, there's like no dental coverage, and there's also no vacation pay. I know, sucks. But you're billing for the exact hours that you worked for. So for instance, most of your projects or labs that you're working with are going to observe like Juneteenth coming up, right? I'm not working on Juneteenth. That's my holiday. Like I'm taking it as a holiday, right? However, I'm an employee. I work for growth sector, right? You all are contractors. So unless you are actually, and you work with your mentor and your mentor says, hey, you're going to be logging hours on Juneteenth and like you can work your 8 hours, then you can bill for it. But we shouldn't see on your invoice holiday pay, because then Myra's gonna tap and say, hey, Genesis, go back and like, please fix this because if you didn't work these hours, then we can't pay you for them, unfortunately. All right, is that clear? So your pay period is June 12th through June 23rd, or any 2-week period that's on the left-hand column. And on the right-hand column is the date that you need to hit submit on your invoice. And we're going to show you next how you're going to be submitting your invoice. Yeah.
There we go.
Okay. So this is super basic. It's an Excel spreadsheet, editable, like super, super easy to fill out, but we just want to make sure that you are paying attention to all the fields and putting everything where it's supposed to go. So your invoice is going to be submitted every 2 weeks during your entire internship in order to get paid. We cannot pay you without receiving your invoice, which is due on the Thursday of that pay period. So again, going back to like June 22nd. So you'll see Myra's highlighted everything like really beautifully and put markers on everything you need to fill out. So you're going to be working off of the same Excel spreadsheet document every pay period. You're going to receive the template from us after today's session. So you're going to update with intern name. That's you, Elijah Smith. You're going to put your name in. Your internship site, so where you specifically are working this summer, your phone number, your email address, like those lines are not going to change. Services for, that's going to change every pay period, so you need to update it. So for this first pay period that a lot of you are going to be participating in will be June 12th through June 23rd. So you need to make sure that you're updating that.
And just remember, refer to this. If you get confused as to what date, see June 12th right here to June 23rd. That's literally what's on right here, June 12th to June 23rd, because that's what you're billing for.
And then go back, Myra, one more time too. So if you're not starting your internship until June 26th, that's fine. You wouldn't bill for June 12th through June 23rd because you didn't work. But let's say that you started on like June 20th. That was like your first day that was on your offer letter. That's what your site and your mentor, like you guys agreed to. Totally fine. The pay period is still June 12th through June 23rd, but you would only bill for the dates that you worked, which might be June 20th, June 21st, June 22nd, and June 23rd. So only those days in that pay period. So you wouldn't start billing from June 12th because you didn't work. Again, we don't want this to sound redundant, but these are things we see over and over and over again from students. Okay, so this next area is where like the real work is where you're going to be like logging what you actually did on those days in the pay period. So for instance, you're going to be writing in June 13th, let's say it was like your first day of work. In the description of services, you don't need to be super detailed. We don't want just one word, but just give us a brief description of what you did for a period of time. So let's say that you spent 4 hours of your first day going through your intern orientation at Caltrans, not this intern orientation because nobody's being paid for this orientation. That's another question I always get, right? This is just informative. So let's say your first day at Caltrans, you did your intern orientation and you met with your mentor and that took 4 hours. That's what you are going to be like logging for, like, let's say 4 hours. Then after that, you moved on and your mentor assigned you to read through your department manual and take notes. That took you 2 hours. And then after that, you spent 2 hours setting up your equipment. So just very brief descriptions. I hope this gives you a good example. Maybe that was 2 hours, and that filled up your 8 hours of the workday. Is that clear? You shouldn't be, so like if you are, some of you are doing research that's maybe 20 hours a week. So whatever that breakdown is, if it's you're working 4 hours a day or 5 hours a day, then same deal, but you would be breaking down your hours for those 4 hours that you worked for that day, right? So that's June 13th. Then June 14th, you're going to go on, same deal, just explain to us a very brief description of what your hour breakdown looked like for that day. So you're going to go on to continue this for your entire pay period. And again, we're just using the example of June 12th through June 23rd. So each day that you worked through those dates, that's what we should be seeing in these fields. The spreadsheet will automatically tabulate your total hours worked. So you'll see on, you're putting in your hours on the right-hand side. Every time you add in hours, it will be tabulating your total hours worked at the bottom of the sheet. Again, if you are working 40 hours a week over 2 weeks, that means 80 hours that you would be, or you'd be billing for. Hopefully that makes sense and isn't confusing, right? All right, so then moving on. So your hourly rate, you need to fill this part in. So hourly rate, you're pulling that directly from your offer letter. So if you're making $17.50 an hour, you're going to multiply that by the total hours worked for this pay period. So for example, at the bottom of your hours worked so far, we're at 10 hours. So $17.50 times 10 hours is $175. And that's essentially what you'd be billing for. All right, I'm going to pause there because I see a couple of questions already. So if you want to unmute yourself, Jay.
Yeah, hello.
Yes.
So I had a question regarding the hourly thing because personally in my case, my offer letter didn't show an hourly, it just showed like a weekly amount. So I'm not sure how that would translate to like writing down the invoice.
Yep. Jay, you have a different situation, so stay on after this and we will work with you directly.
Okay, thank you.
Bilal?
I also have a question. So I was received the hourly rate from Growth Sector, and then my employer also gave me a rate for which I was hired on. Is that separate?
It should be the same hourly rate. If it was different, then we need to talk.
All right, we need to talk.
Okay, no problem. We'll follow up afterwards. But thank you guys for those questions. And Myra and I will stay on after this in case there are any like more individualized questions specifically for your situation. But any questions specifically about the invoice so far, about submitting or anything we've covered?
I have a question. I don't know if you could hear me.
Yep, go ahead, Libna. We're losing you.
It says that there's an invoice of May 15th to the 20th. An invoice for that? Oh, can you hear me?
You're in and out.
Hello?
Yeah,
Okay, I'm
try again. Do you want to just put your question in the chat? But I think I heard, Myra, can you go back to the pay schedule? I think you were getting to the point that there is an invoice for like May 15th through May 26th. If you didn't work, we had a few rare cases where interns were starting super early, so they worked that pay period. If you did not work that pay period, in regards to your offer letter saying that that's when you started, you would not submit an invoice for anything before you actually start. We've had in the past, for instance, an intern who was like, okay, my internship offer letter says I begin on June 26th. but I just wanted to do extra work and start doing research. So I started working from May 15th. So I'm going to submit an invoice. No. Your offer letter didn't say for you to start working. So you can do all the research you'd like, but we cannot officially start paying you. So you wouldn't submit an invoice to growth sector until the pay period on your offer letter. Okay, hopefully that answered your question, Livna. Yes, you do need to sign your offer letter. You received that from me and you send it back to me as per the instructions in the email. Ann Bird?
Hi, sorry. I have a question on my invoice. I mean, on my paper, it says specifically I start on the 25th, which is a Sunday. And it's sort of in between both like invoice like due dates. Would I turn it in like on the invoice date that's after it, not before?
Where are you placed?
In terms of, between like
Your
maybe
internship
June
site.
25th,
Where's your internship site?
June 25th.
Where are you interning?
Oh, at Lawrence
Livermore.
Livermore, yeah.
Yeah, they did it a little weird. You're likely not going to start working until Monday.
Okay, yeah.
They're gonna have you work on- yeah, so just connect with your mentor to confirm like what day like they want you to report. And it's likely gonna be the Monday, which would mean like you'd fall into the correct billing cycle.
Okay.
Yeah, but if it gets confusing afterwards, just like shoot me an email and let me know.
All right. Thank you.
Patricia?
Yeah, I have a question regarding the invoice submission. It has to be is it just once or it should be like each 2 weeks?
Yeah, so Myra, let's go back to the pay schedule. So you're submitting every 2 weeks during your entire internship. You see on the left-hand side is your participation work period, and then the right-hand side is the deadline, the due date for that work period. So if you are interning from June 12th through like, I forget what the 10 weeks is, maybe like August 18th, you're going to be submitting for each of these dates. You're going to have to submit an invoice on June 22nd, July 6th, July 20th, August 3rd, and August 17th. So you're submitting an invoice every 2 weeks for the pay period that we're alluding to on the left-hand side.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Jacoby?
So I have a question because I saw that some people duration is 10 weeks. Mine say 8 weeks, but the dates are from June 12th to August 18th. That's actually 10 weeks. So I don't know if that was a typo on my
Where are you located? Or where are you interning?
oh, my intern is Cal State.
Cal State LA?
Yeah.
That's 8 weeks. So that probably needs to be edited.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you
Thank
for
you.
that. Can
No
you,
problem.
Jacoby, can you just shoot me an email after this so I don't forget, so we can get that corrected for you?
Okay.
Thank you. Samar, we'll take one more question, then we're gonna move on, just because I want to be sensitive to everybody's time. And if there are individual questions about your individual situation, that's fine. We'll just hold on to it until afterwards.
Are we, when we're calculating the pay, we're doing the total, like what the internship is paying us and what you guys are paying us, right? Or are we just?
So you are taking the total number of hours that you worked and multiplying that by your hourly rate that's on your growth sector internship offer letter.
Okay.
Where are you interning? Because you might have a different situation.
Daily computers.
Yep, so that's a little bit different. So you are specifically going to invoice for the part that growth sector is paying you.
Okay. Okay.
Does that make sense? Because Daily is paying you one portion and then growth sector is paying you a separate portion. So you're only going to invoice for the amount that growth sector is actually paying you, which was a different hourly rate.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
All right, good questions, everybody. So stick around. We're going to keep moving forward. But if there are individual questions after this for your individual situation, just stick around and we will make sure to get them answered for you. So the last part is that I want to note is where it says contractor signature. So you need to sign your invoice you need to date your invoice, which will likely be that last day or the due date that you're submitting on. And then the big thing I want to make sure everybody pays attention to is your supervisor needs to sign or initial before your invoice is valid. So my advice to everybody is do not wait until the June 22nd. That's the day that we're saying it's due. Don't wait until June 22nd to then fill everything out. I would encourage you maybe like make it a routine at the end of each day. You go into your invoice and log like, here's what I did today. Here's what I did the next day. Just because you're going to forget over 2 weeks, like what you did each day. The other thing to note is, look, so you have the deadlines here of what day you need to submit your invoice by. You know that it's going to be due on June 22nd. So I would reach out to your mentor in advance and say, hey, I'm going to get this invoice to you on like June 21st or June 22nd. Can you take a look at it and sign off? Because I need to submit this by 12 p.m. on June 22nd. Talk to your mentor. Hey, if you're out sick or you're away on vacation and you're unable to sign off on my invoice, who should I reach out to in the department that can sign off for it in your place? Is there anybody else who can look at it? So what happens every summer is that students will come on like June 22nd when it's due, or whatever date that it says on your pay. I'm just using June 22nd as the example for this. Will come to us and say, hey, my mentor is on vacation for the next week, so they couldn't sign off on it. You knew that it was going to be on June 22nd. You should have communicated to your mentor, right? So have these conversations early enough and find out who can be like a placeholder or sign off for you in the meantime, right? So don't be last minute about this. Like you shouldn't be reaching out to your mentor knowing that your invoice is due at 12 p.m. on June 22nd. You shouldn't be reaching out to your mentor on June 22nd at 11:50 and saying, hey, can you sign this? Myra, anything I'm forgetting?
No, I would just, like I said, you really have to really hold yourself accountable during this process. Like I said, check those emails frequently. What I would do if I were you is go, if you use a planner, if you use a digital calendar, whatever you use, I would highly suggest putting in the dates of when your invoice is due as a reminder. I can't tell you how many times we've had students completely forget to turn in an invoice, and we're then having to follow up by email, by call, by whatever means to try to remind you, hey, you need to submit this by 12 p.m. noon. Again, unless you don't want to get paid, that's a whole other story. But again, I don't think any of us want to work for free, right? So you need to make sure it is your responsibility to turn in your invoice completely filled out with everything ready to roll on the day that it's due by 12 p.m. noon.
Pacific Standard Time.
Pacific Standard Time. So please make sure you submit that and completely filled out. Again, if we see, I can't tell you how many times the services for tab right here, students always get it wrong because they're not paying attention. Make sure these couple lines right here, the 1, 2, 3, 4, these top 4 are always going to stay the same, right? The one that is going to change is the services for, because that's going to be the week that you are invoicing for. So always refer to your pay schedule and make sure that when you submit it, it has the right due dates. Again, we can't change these things for you. You have to be the one to make the edits on your Excel sheet. And then again, making sure it's the small little details, making sure to change the date every time that you are submitting for the correct date. Just make sure that you, again, put reminders on your calendar, whatever you need to do, but make sure that you stay on top of it because it is your responsibility to complete this. And again, failure to submit your invoice in a timely manner may result in a delay in payment. So just want to make sure we stress that.
Thanks, Mara. And to be clear again, your hourly rate is not going to change. So your hourly rate is your hourly rate on your offer letter, and you are simply multiplying that by the total number of hours worked for this pay period. So whatever it tabulates you to on where it says 10 right now, that's obviously incorrect, but like where it says 10, that's what you're going to be multiplying your $17.50 or your hourly rate by. And then you need to put in what this total is. Because this total where it says 175 or whatever it totals out to be, that's what you're going to be paid for that pay period. So you want to make sure you're double checking.
Mhm.
All right. Again, we don't mean to harp on this, but we're doing this for a lot of interns and we see these mistakes over and over and over again. And don't depend on me. Like Myra said, save the invoice due dates so that you know when it's coming. I will typically send you a reminder a couple days before saying, hey, interns, like, don't forget, you're going to be, your due date is June 22nd for your invoice. So make sure you're working on it and ready to submit. It doesn't mean you can't turn it in early. We're saying your invoice is due at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on that invoice due date, but it doesn't mean you can't get it in at 9 a.m. or like the day before. If like you worked with your mentor to get it done, that's totally fine. I would say it's even better. Like, don't wait until the last minute to submit it. That's just like the cutoff. So all invoices must be submitted to the Dropbox listed below. We are going to be emailing you this link, but if you want to save this would be a good one to save. So you're going, after today's session, you are going to get lots of documents from us, but the big ones to note is you're going to get the template for your invoice and you're going to get the link for your invoice submission. And this link is not going to change for the entire summer. So every time you update your invoice, you are going to go to this invoice link and submit your invoice there. So you're not emailing it to Cheryl, you're not emailing it to Myra. Thanks, Dr. Boko. Yep, I see you're putting 12 p.m. Pacific. Yep, that is correct. 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Doesn't mean you can't be earlier. If you're on the East Coast, that means you get a few extra hours because it's really 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Yep.
All right, so that concludes all the information on payroll. All right, next slide, Myra. So we will be following up with you throughout the summer just to check in and see how your placement is going. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't hear from you before then. If you want to say, if Jacoby, you're like, hey, Cheryl, look, I'm really loving my internship. Just wanted to send you an email and say things are great. Awesome. Thank you so much for that. We love to hear it. But if we don't hear from you, somebody from our growth sector team, whether it's myself or Myra or another team member, will be following up with you to see how things are going, just to make sure that you're having a good experience. And if you have anything to share. So probably a couple of weeks into your placement, you'll be hearing from us to sign up for a one-on-one check-in. These are quicker check-ins. It'll be about no more than 20 minutes, more just to hear from you in terms of your updates as to how your placement is going. So yeah, just come prepared with updates. You don't have to be, depending on like some of the placements that you all have, you might be working on more like classified information that you can't share, that's fine. But be prepared to share with us like what's going on, what have you been doing for the last few weeks? How are things going with your mentor? Is there anything that you need support around? Are you still confused by your invoice? These are things that we'll be checking in with you throughout the summer. So only one check-in is required. But just know that we will also be checking in with your mentor as well. So they'll be reporting on your performance and how you are doing as well. And then lastly, the last thing that everybody will be submitting is a testimonial. So and probably you have all like seen this, like so we take testimonials from our interns who are going to share what their experience was like in their internship. And we use this more for our growth sector website in order to be able to share in our grant writing process, which is what pays for your internships. So being able to like share with your employers, with other partners, just like the cool things that you all are doing. So this is what it eventually ends up looking like, but Myra, go back to the previous screen. These are some of the prompts that you'll be answering. So we'll be reaching out to you probably mid-summer or mid-placement, saying like, here's a link to submit your testimonial, where you'll be writing probably a couple of paragraphs answering these questions. Your name, where are you interning? What does a day in the life of your internship look like? What did you enjoy the most about your internship? How did you apply? What are your future goals and plans? And any advice that you have for future STEM core interns. So again, this is super, super helpful to have, one for not only our marketing, but in terms of securing future funding. As a lot of you might be aware, is growth sector and our partners, we fund most of these placements. That's how we're paying you, is we are utilizing grants that we secure and write for, and a big fee of that is paying for our student interns to have awesome placements like this. So help us out by being able to use these testimonials in order to secure future funding. A lot of you are going to be right back here next year, because we do provide multiple internships for another placement. So just keep that in mind, that we really do need these from you. And then we do ask that you include a photo as well. If you can go to the next slide, Myra, just to give the sample again. If you're able to, I know not all sites are going to allow you to, but Eric did a great job, was at Caltrans last summer and took a picture of himself live in the field. So if you're able to get a picture like that near a Lawrence Berkeley National Lab signage, just anything that's kind of cool, maybe you're working on a project, if it shows you in the lab, and if you're allowed to take the picture, so check with your mentor. That would be really great to be able to have, because this is what it ends up looking like once we create the testimonial for you.
Mhm.
All right, and let's have a great summer. I know that was a lot of information for all of you, but y'all are smart, so I'm sure you're able to retain it. But just keep in mind that this is, I keep saying this is the beginning of your professional career, but also utilize this experience, have fun, connect with your mentors, connect with staff members, and just realize that you only get this experience once. I always tell students that when you go on site, ask questions, not just about your position, but career paths, from your mentor, from other people on the team. I can tell you this, personally speaking, when I was a student, people love to give me information and share things and educate you and tell you things. Now I've been in the field working, ain't nobody want to answer my questions. It takes multiple follow-ups. I'm in the workforce now, but as a student, they want to share experiences with you. They want to mentor you. So take advantage of it. Oftentimes when we hear back from your sites and from mentors, the ones who they rave about are the ones who ask good questions, who asked for resources or said hey, is it okay if I sit in on this meeting? I'm really interested in this project. The ones who took initiative, who obviously did a good job on their projects, but also took initiative to really show that they wanted to be there. One extra thing that I would note is that a lot of your sites are looking to hire after your placements. So even though your offer letter might say that you are specifically at the National Renewable Energy Lab for 10 weeks, don't be surprised, and just kind of keep in mind that they're sort of treating this as a 10-week sort of soft interview, where you could get an offer to stay on afterwards while you're in school, and maybe it's that you're working part-time. It could be that they're hey, Casey, you did such a great job. We are going to not go through growth sector next summer, and we're going to fund you to come back next summer if you would like to do that. And then our goal is that we want to hire you full-time once you graduate, right? So just sort of keep in mind that this is, I keep saying it, the beginning of your professional career, and that even though it says a few 8 to 10 weeks on your internship offer letter, this could turn into something, it should be turning into something a lot bigger, whether it's at your current site, but this catapults into another site and another site book the next summer. So just sort of keep all of that in mind, that this is really the beginning of everything. Myra, any follow-up thoughts?
Yeah, actually, I'm just going to share my screen really quick with you guys, just to kind of give you a view of what we're going to be sharing with you. So like I said, if you're like me and you are oh my gosh, I already forgot how to fill out the invoice form or whatever it may be, or oh my gosh, where did she say I need to make sure to focus on? We're going to be sharing a link with you for a Google Drive that's going to be for you guys to look into. And I have uploaded everything that I think you would need, including today's presentation. I've included specific snapshots of the important slides. If you're like, oh my gosh, I have to go through the presentation, I don't and I want to know about the offer letter, or oh, I want to look back at the W-9 form. I've literally included snapshots of these specific slides that I think were important for you. But it's all going to be in here, so you can refer back to it if you get confused or if you just need a refresher. And then what we're also going to be sending to you is this document where I have made sure to link up the important links that you're going to need. So this document right here, it's literally going to be, again, kind of like a wrap up of everything that we went through: invoices, your testimonial, check-ins, all that good stuff. But specifically on this document, I made sure to kind of do like a quick one-stop shop for the different links that you're going to need. Okay. So just keep an eye on that. It's going to be in here as well. So again, we're going to be sending it all to you, so you have it at your fingertips to refer back to. Okay.
And then also this recording as well will be going out. You
Exactly.
can always reference this. I am just kind of like looking through the chat as well. Interns are not working overtime.
No.
Right? So if your offer letter says that you're working 40 hours a week, that's the most that you can bill for. So just to be clear, I'm not saying that, I mean, if you're just like so passionate about your work and you wanted to like spend time on a Saturday outside of hours, like reading up, we're not telling you to do that. And that's great for your own education, but we can't have you bill for extra for overtime. So your 40 hours or whatever the number allotted on your offer letter is what you're permitted to work. Because again, we are hosting a lot of interns, and I already told you that a lot of this funding is coming through grant funding and foundations that we're working with. And that's how we're able to fund you all as students. So we cannot pay overtime, unfortunately. So whatever your offer letter says or indicates is what you're permitted to work. The offer letter signing, Word doc or PDF, whatever you would like. We just need it back. Aishaya.
Hi, I wanted to know, like, in what like form will we be getting paid, like a check or will we be setting up a business account? Sorry if I missed
Perfect.
that.
Thank you for asking that. So after today's session, you will be receiving the DocuSign with, you'll be filling out your W-9 and your contractor agreement. Once we receive that back from you, you are then going to be getting an invitation from bill.com, which is the platform that Growth Sector uses to pay interns. So I'm telling you it's bill.com. It doesn't mean that you should go and Google bill.com and create an account. Don't do that, because you need a specific invitation from Growth Sector to join bill.com to link you to this internship and your payment. So after you fill out your DocuSign correctly, so we've received your W-9, we've received your contractor agreement, a few days later, you'll be receiving an invitation from bill.com where you are going to register for how you would like to be paid. We encourage you, it just works out most easily when you just sign up for direct deposit. That's what I think 99.9% of our interns do. You can request a paper check if you want, it will just be slower, but those are your options. But great question, thank you. I can't believe we forgot to go over that. Melvin.
I believe you answered this question already, but I just wanted to clarify. If our offer letter says that we start at June 12th, we can't log in or invoice hours before then.
Correct.
All right, cool. But we are allowed to participate with whatever research we're conducting in the program.
Yeah, but in terms of your start date, like we worked out those start dates with your mentor. So you should really be starting on the day that's on your offer letter.
Okay.
Yeah, they really shouldn't be asking you to do anything before that date, unless it's maybe like an orientation. I think a couple you might have, but you really shouldn't start working until the date on your offer letter. I know it's 11 o'clock, we're a little bit past 11 o'clock now, so I want to be sensitive to time. So if you need to jump off, that's completely fine. Myra and I are going to stay on for those of you who have individual specific questions, just to get those answered for you all. But again, if you need to go, so I'm going to say that this is the conclusion of our orientation. So thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Congratulations again. I don't know if you can hear my daughter, but she's super excited for all of you as well. And Myra and I will be in contact with you just in terms of like next steps, bill.com, DocuSign, W-9s, and all the documents that you will need. Okay. So congratulations. Thank you so much. And I am going to stop the recording here and stay on for those who have questions.
Yes.